Welcome to today's segment of Child Online Protection Campaign. With us, Parents Africa Integrated Media. Parents Africa Integrated Media is honored and privileged to be partnering with Communications Authority of Kenya to push the agenda of child online safety. And to that effect, with us, we have a representative of the Communication Authority of Kenya, whom I will let introduce herself.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. So my name is Patricia Muchiri. I work for the Communications Authority of Kenya, and I'm the acting director in charge of public education and awareness. And basically, this is the department that is responsible for the flagship Child Online Protection Program. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for making time for today's interview. So let's just get right into it. For any member of our audience who is unfamiliar with this space, please define child online protection and explain what it entails.
Okay. Child Online Protection, or commonly known as COP, is the global initiative that was coined or established by the International Telecommunications Union. That is the UN agency responsible for all ICT matters, for coming up with a holistic way to deal with the challenges that the youth and the children face as they navigate the cyberspace. So it is a broad initiative. It has many programs within COP, but it generally refers to the global initiative that was established by ITU and how countries, industry, players can deal with those issues.
So does our country have an adequate legal framework for protecting children?
That's a very good question. Our country, in my view, does have an adequate policy, legislative framework dealing with all matters child protection. The Constitution 2010 is has underpinned the principles in terms of child protection, in terms of the right of the child to education, to safety, to food. We also have the Consumer Protection Act, which also stipulates all protection mechanisms for consumers. And from this space, we're looking at children as consumers of these products and services. Further afield, the national government has in place the national ICT guidelines that highlights what the country should do from a policy level with respect to child online protection. Then, of course, we do have the licenses that we give our service providers and operators that stipulate safeguard measures that regard children as they use the internet. So from where I'm sitting, I want to believe, and of course, I don't want to forget the Children's Act that has just been revised. We have a robust Children's Act, I think that was revised a year ago, that stipulates and talks to the protection of children in Kenya. So in my view, we have a strong, robust legal framework. Thank you.
We know that child online protection, COP, is a global agenda inside the greater cybersecurity agenda. What specific role does CA, the Communication Authority of Kenya, play in this space?
Thank you again for that question. And now you cannot talk about child online protection without talking about cybersecurity. Actually, child online protection is a subset inside the global cybersecurity agenda. The two are Siamese twins. So from that space, CA is a member state among other member states that sits at the ITU Council, and that is really a key role that we play in this space. Now, coming closer to specifically what we do, the ITU has come up with a framework on how as a country and how member states shall handle all issues to do with child online protection. So Kenya as a member state, we have designed our programs. We've designed our communication information materials. We've defined our initiatives around the framework that has been provided for by the ITU. So we are a global player when it comes to the internet and safety. And as you know, the internet is borderless. So how one country deals with COP should be seamless with how another country does it. So there's a framework that guides us on what to do.
So what is CA's mandate in consumer protection, and what role does CA play in child online protection?
Okay. Allow me to talk a little bit about CA's mandate in regulating the ICT sector in Kenya. So CA is a regulator for the converged ICT environment, and we do 7 or 8 things. We are a key player in managing the country's cyberspace, and this is a shared role. We are the authority that is responsible for issuance of frequencies, the frequencies you use on your mobile, handset, and other spaces. We regulate competition in this ICT sector. We're responsible for that. We are also responsible for issuance of resources such as numbers, like the numbers you have on your mobile phone, what you call your personal mobile number. It's actually a resource given to the mobile telecommunication providers by CA on behalf of the government. So coming closer home, we have a sacrosanct role in consumer protection. And this is one thing that a lot of people do not know. So we have a responsibility to the consumers of the various goods, regulated goods and services in the ICT space. And it is within that context that we are now looking at children, because we are now looking at children as consumers of ICT. And they are very early adopters. We do know from research we've done and from data collected, they're spending a lot of their time on the internet. They are learning, they are creating relationships. During COVID, a lot of the schools moved teaching to ICT platforms. So that is a responsibility with respect to consumer protection.
Beautifully answered. Now, Kenya is a member state at the International Telecommunications Union, as you had mentioned, and it sits in the council. How does this influence and inform Kenya's role in child online protection and safety?
I think sitting at the ITU Council is an honor. And allow me to say that CA is responsible or has the delegated role by the national government on ICT matters. So even as Kenya sits at the council, we represent the national government. It's very important to note that. Now, being a council member puts on you a big responsibility. You need to demonstrate leadership in certain areas. And specifically, you need to demonstrate commitment and responsibility on agendas such as the Child Online Protection Agenda. So, and allow me to say that I think in Africa, we may be one of 3 countries that have committed resources, time, expertise in terms of driving the COP agenda forward. So our relationship in terms of sitting at the council puts us under some pressure to demonstrate, even within the East Africa community, of our commitment to not only being a council member, but to pushing the ITU agenda forward.
Wow. Hongera, Kenya. I was not aware of that, actually. The role of International Telecommunications Union in setting the COP agenda is very important. What are the key elements of an effective child online safety program, and how does the organization, COP, CAK, implement these principles?
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, the ITU has a very well-defined framework with respect to COP. And this framework has 6 key principles or elements within it. The recommendations to member states is that you need to have a strong policy and legislative framework, and we'll talk a little bit about what Kenya has done. You need to have initiatives that create awareness, and CA has been responsible for a number. There are also other players in Kenya that have also done quite a bit, UNICEF and others. You need to collaborate and cooperate with other like-minded stakeholders, and that is why we have about 40 or so COP partners, among them yourselves. So this agenda cuts horizontally. So there's no one single organization that can achieve end-to-end in the COP agenda. So that's the third thing we do. We collaborate and we cooperate. A country needs to develop technical tools. Now, Kenya is known to have a robust, young, youthful ICT youthful population. What do I mean by that? When it comes to development of applications, softwares, I think we are second or probably the first in Africa. So this country has seen the development of tools and softwares that can assist the COP. We as CA have also developed a game. Yes, that is actually used by children in terms of learning and, learning through entertainment. And this is even available on our website. And the last thing is you need to have redress mechanisms. Where do people go for help? If they are violated in any way, if they have issues to do with cyberbullying and some of the risks we shall be discussing. So that framework developed by ITU is what the country uses. And those principles are the ones we've used to develop our agenda in Kenya.
We know that there are several risks and vulnerabilities that children face as they navigate the internet. Could you kindly name a few?
So there are many, there are very, very many. And this differ from one jurisdiction to another. Now, we have common ones. We have common issues like cyberbullying, and I think you all know what cyberbullying is. It's just either a lot of it has to do with maybe the ethnic community you come from, what you look like, how you speak. So a lot of bad things can be said in forums or just directly attacking you as a person. We have issues like internet addiction. We really call upon parents to set rules for how long and when children should access the internet. So you must set rules. Just like when I was growing up, we could never come home after 6 p.m. It was actually a no-no. So because during my day as a young girl, we actually played on the street. It was safe to play in the street. So there was this joke that when the street lights went on, it was time to go home. What am I saying? Parents must set rules. Do you allow your children to go with gadgets to their room? Do you secure your gadgets with passcodes and passwords? Do you have rules in terms of how long they can access the internet? Are your gadgets, is your Wi-Fi password strong enough? Or is it ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4? What am I saying? The vulnerabilities and risks we know of actually come from setting those rules. So there's also catfishing. And catfishing is where adults pretend to be who they are not. They pretend to be young people, and then they lure children either to harm them or stuff like that. Increasingly now we are seeing revenge porn. Revenge porn is where a young person has been in a relationship, and after the relationship breaks up, either photos or materials that were shared through consent are then used to either blackmail. And in some jurisdictions, this has led to suicide. It's a really, really serious risk in our space. And maybe the last thing I can talk about is gambling has become an issue in our space, and more so for the young people. So again, is a misuse of the internet as a resource. Yet we know that the internet is such a good thing, and it has completely changed the way we work, we play, we live, we get entertained. But there has to be safeguards, especially for children and youth. So those are some of the risks I know of. There are several others.
So what role does public awareness play in your regulatory approach to online child protection for both parents or guardians and children? You can kindly outline some strategies.
Okay, public awareness on what the ITU has recommended is there has to be creation of awareness by the regulator, by industry, and by industry I mean by our licensees, by vendors, for instance, the people who import mobile handsets into our country. They need to create awareness. The education sector, a key component in this space, they need to create awareness. So the space of public awareness is so critical because that's the reason why we're having this conversation. And public awareness can be anything. It can be media campaigns, could be IEC materials, could be learning through entertainment. One of the key initiatives that CA sponsors is the Kenya Drama Festival and the Kenya Music Festival. We're one of the principal sponsors. So during those mimes, choruses, plays, children are able to learn about COP risks and vulnerabilities in a very fun way. So public awareness cannot be second guessed in terms of the impact it can have in sharing information from a very complex field to make it easy for parents, children, and guardians so that they can be able to take those recommendations, implement them, and safeguard the future of this nation.
Can you share examples of successful campaigns or initiatives that the COP program has implemented to promote child safety and well-being through media?
Okay, let me give you a bit of background. We've been in this space for a while. I think this is the 9th year. So we launched the Child Online Protection Campaign in 2015. And we launched what was known as COP Phase 1. And the COP Phase 1 targeted the mobile users then. It targeted parents and guardians. And that campaign had so many components in it. It had public lectures in it. It had a 360 integrated campaign. We used drama as a tool in that campaign. And it is then we established our foothold in this country in terms of driving the COP agenda. Now, allow me to say that CA is not responsible for the children of Kenya. We have primary agencies such as the Directorate of Children's Services who are responsible for all matters children, including online safety. So we recognize our space, but want to play a key role because we regulate the players that bring the internet to you, that bring that resource to your children for use. So some of the other programs we've had is we launched the former First Lady, Her Excellency Margaret Kenyatta, launched COP Phase 2 about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and it has been immensely successful. And in that program, we have many components in it. We've now brought other sponsorships on board so as to continue promoting this very, very important agenda. As I mentioned, we are a key sponsor of the drama festivals, the music festivals, during the annual teachers conferences, which are known as Kesha and Kepsha, we're a major exhibitor. We have a program known as Kikao Kiku, and actually my part of my team right now is in Kakamega, and we are preparing to have this program that we designed for counties, and we've been to 20 counties. And every single county we've gone to, we've gone actually with the COP agenda as one of the key elements. So we have many aspects in terms of initiatives of what we've done, but we recognize that there's still more to be done. Yes, and we are calling upon players such as yourself and others to come on board, and everybody has a role they can play in safeguarding our children.
Wow. Beautiful. I am pleased to see how the public awareness is really on the ground. I mean, Kakamega.
Thank you, thank you.
Wow. How do you involve children and youth, given that they are part of the people who are being targeted in this campaign? How do you involve them in the development and execution in driving the broader COP agenda?
One decision we made quite a while back is that the center or the dialogue around child online protection must have the child at the center of it. Why? Because we as adults can sit in the boardrooms, come up with very polished or designed documents, but the subject matter or the person of concern is a child. So how have we involved children in designing our programs? I'll give you an example. About a year or so ago, we were developing child online protection guidelines for industry, for basically the industry that we regulate. And we took the bull by the horns, so to say. We brought children from all 47 counties to Nairobi to look at the guidelines in terms of public participation and say whether those guidelines were adequate for them or not. It was a massive exercise. It was in terms of capital expenditure, but the most important thing is that the document that was then approved by the board has the inputs of children. As I've mentioned, we not only sponsor Kenya Music Festival, but I think we have 15 or so classes within the music festival that we sponsor that are done by children. So the children take the COP agenda, or rather the adjudicators design the pieces, and then the children are the ones who implement the songs or the chorus or the poems around COP. So for us, children are really at the center of our COP agenda. Now when we have, let's say, the launch, like I mentioned, the Child Online Protection Awareness Phase 2, actually half our audience are children. We are also known to bring industry stakeholders together for the Safer Internet Day. Now the Safer Internet Day is a global day that happens in February every year. So we work with Kenya Girl Guides Association, Kenya Scouts, and even the guests. Part of our guests must be representatives of children. So, and we work very closely also with the associations, Kenya Private Sector Associations, Kenya Parent Associations, because these are the associations that galvanize stakeholders around the child agenda. So that's how we've dealt with it so far.
Wow. How does CA's COP program collaborate with other partners in achieving set objectives?
That's a very important question. You cannot talk about COP without talking about partners. As I mentioned earlier, the ITU recommends that you should collaborate and cooperate as a member state when it comes to the agenda of COP. So we have in place very strong partners who have endorsed our program. All the operators have endorsed our COP program. We work very closely with our own principal ministry, because our principal ministry is actually the ministry that has designed the national ICT guidelines, and in it spelled how the COP agenda should be dealt with. We work with the Ministry of Education. We work with non-state actors. A lot of issues to do with children, that agenda is driven by non-state actors, NGOs. So we work with a lot of NGOs. We work with people like Childline Kenya, the 116. That is the international call number that children can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days for help. We work with other partners such as technology partners who develop devices or who import devices. The list of our COP partners is endless. We work with Kenya Councillors Association. Yes, they are our principal partner. Why? Because we know there could be children who have suffered from addiction and other vices. Where should these children go to? So basically, the COP agenda is driven in that manner. It's like a parachute where you have to accommodate everyone, and then everybody now drives their own agenda. Not to forget, of course, DCI, Kenya Police Services, critical, judiciary, critical when it comes to violations that are to do with the law. Thank you.
So we've talked about successes, initiatives, but what challenges have you encountered in the execution of the COP initiatives?
Okay, there has to be challenges. One, this is a long-term program. So the financial resources required to keep this agenda top of mind awareness, to keep running media campaigns, to have below the line activities such as I've mentioned in the counties, it takes quite huge resources to do this. But I really wish to thank the board of CA that has always supported this program by giving adequate budget provisions. But no budget can be adequate to deal with all issues. So financial resources is one challenge. The two is emerging issues. We are now talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is a new frontier, at least in this part of the world. And that has brought with it some new complexity in terms of how we are going to navigate the cyberspace. So we are yet to do research and to establish how AI will be a threat to children or how it can be used as a resource. So emerging technologies has thrown also another spanner in the works. There's the issue of consumers' level of understanding. With all due respect to consumers, ICT is quite a complex field. So it comes when it comes to the development of programs or materials, sometimes we are challenged, even the acronyms of the words we use. Sometimes we are challenged in how we are going to simplify the language, simplify the content, so that the target audience, the children themselves, the parents, guardians, are able to understand what we put in some of these materials. So the fact that ICT is a complex field brings a level of complexity with respect to the relevance and simplicity of the content we put out there. The advent of social media has brought with it a lot of good things, but also has brought with it some challenges. Why do I say that? One specific issue of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying has gone through the roof when it comes to the use of social media platforms without naming any specific platform. So we find that with the advent of technology, Kenya has over 66 million SIM cards registered. So you can imagine the number of people who are able to access the internet, who are able to access data. So with the growth exponential growth of our space as a country, people now use social media platforms on a day-to-day basis. So issues like cyberbullying, internet addiction have also grown. So those are the four challenges that I can think of at this time.
So you've mentioned emerging issues, and that is actually quite a good segue into our next question. What are the emerging issues so far as COP is concerned, and how does CA address them?
I think the emerging issues and the ones I am thinking about are definitely cybersecurity, cyber threats. We do have a cybersecurity center known as KSAT here at CA, where we play a key role among other security players in this country to safeguard the cyberspace. So the fact that the use of the internet, actually now communication is a human right, even according to our constitution. So the fact that everything we do, from banking to entertainment, to even for young people like yourselves, dating, and even maybe meeting your future spouse, everything has come to the port of call is the internet. So that has created a very good thing, but again, is as an emerging issue, has also presented a challenge to government agencies and others. Why do I say this? Because traditionally, the policy and legislative framework is always slower than the technology. So by the time we are reviewing, right now we are in the process of reviewing our Kenya Information and Communications Act, our Primary Mother Act. By the time we are done with reviewing it, reviewing our regulations, then AI is here or something else is here. So how have we dealt with it as CA? Research. We've invested quite a lot of money in research. Another issue is the issue of data, big data. I think you've all heard of big data. What has that presented a problem? And not just to CA, but to other government agencies. The issues of privacy. Your data, everything about you is on the net. From your education grades, to your medical records, to your social media preferences, everything about you is now on the net. So that has presented the issue of how does government, and we do have the Office of the Data Commissioner, who's a key partner to CA, and that's a constitutional office. How is your data going to be safeguarded by the people who hold your data? So that's an emerging issue. The whole issue of big data has also presented an issue. So CA, what we do is collaborate with other partners such as the Office of the Data Commissioner to ensure that every government agency that has responsibility in this space plays its role. So those are some of the issues I would think top of mind that are new or that are emerging in this space.
No, so can you discuss any upcoming initiatives or plans the authority has to further enhance online child protection in the financial year 2023-2024?
This specific year, as I mentioned, we are right now in the planning space of having what is known as Kikao Kikuu, Kakamega 20th edition. It's the 20th county forum we've had. We've been to 19 counties. Inside that forum, we are definitely going to talk about COP. We have a major exhibition tent, and among some of the materials we'll be sharing with consumers, and we wish to welcome everybody who will be in Kakamega around those dates. The dates will be publicized, widely publicized, to come and listen, because we'll have a large team in terms of experts talking about all CA's responsibilities, our mandate, and among them will be the child online protection. We are going to be, in August, we're going to be sponsoring the Kenya Music Festival. I think the Kenya Music Festival has been in existence in this country for about 95 years. I was surprised to learn that. So it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful forum put together by the Ministry of Education. Again, CA will be exhibiting in that forum. We have the Kenya Drama Festival, which I think are beginning in 10 days or so. Again, we are sending a big team. We're going to be an exhibitor. And so those are some of our initiatives for specifically this year that we are supporting and also participating.
So I think something I've taken from this entire conversation is that parents have a more principled role than they believe they do in enhancing and ensuring that their children are protected online. So what are the primary responsibilities or measures that parents or guardians should have in place to safeguard the use of the cyberspace by children?
I think that's a really, really critical question you asked there. Now, if nobody takes away anything from this interview, this is a point I would like them to understand firmly and clearly. As a parent, as a guardian, you have a principal responsibility for the children under your care, under your watch. And why do I say that? When it comes to child online protection, even within the home, you're responsible for how much time your children spend on the internet. You're responsible for the gadgets you buy them. If they're data-enabled phones, you're responsible for have they registered on social media platforms and they're below 13. Or we do know of parents who even register accounts for their children because the children are below the ages of 13. So who do your children talk to on the internet? Who sends your children money via the SIM cards you've registered for them? Your Wi-Fi, is it password protected? If it is Netflix or any of these other streaming platforms, have you safeguarded? Because we do know the service providers have applications or a way in which you can safeguard what content your children can use. Now, the interesting thing is you might decide actually I'll not have Wi-Fi to safeguard the children, but your children will go to the neighbor. Or we do know that you can actually even use a neighbor's Wi-Fi. What am I saying? Get involved, have a conversation with your children, be their friend, let them tell you about things like Snapchat, which some of us will not even understand. Let them be your partner in terms of what they do on the net, what they like and don't like. You'd be surprised that these children even know more than us. So I'm putting the responsibility squarely to the parent. Today, go home, change your passwords, safeguard your gadgets. Children below a certain age, maybe below 12, do not allow them to go with these mobile devices, iPads, to their bedrooms at night, because you never know which sites they follow. And again, it is very easy. You only need an IT guy or lady to show you how to track which sites your child has been to. So get involved, learn, do not be left by this bandwagon. The responsibility is yours. Even as government, we do a lot. You still have a primary responsibility.
Wow, that's important for parents to get. Where can children, parents, or guardians seek help if exposed to online risks and vulnerabilities such as cyberbullying, identity theft, revenge porn, or exposure to inappropriate material?
Thank you. This is a very important question. You're safeguarded. The mechanisms are in place, but you must seek the help. At least a few, but there could be others. We have the child hotline number 116. It's an international hotline number. Just call 116. You have trained counselors on board and they'll be able to help you. You have the DCI as a toll-free number, 0800 722 203. Everybody should have that number. That is where you can report a crime. For instance, if your child has been abused, there's an adult sending them all sorts of photos and information, you can actually report. Then we have now within CA the National KSAT Center. And the number is 0703 042 700. And please share these numbers widely. So we have a 24/7 center within CA that you can send an email or call and you can be assisted. Then all social media platforms, at least to my knowledge, have safety centers. The Google has a safety center, Facebook has a help safety center, TikTok has a safety center, IG has community guidelines. These are places where you can seek help if there's such a violations. Then of course you can just walk into the respective referral organization. If you think your child has been violated through the use of a SIM card or the mobile phone, just walk to one of the mobile operators offices or centers. They'll be able to help you. The most important thing I wish to mention is that children themselves can report. They can even report adults who have violated them. They can report to teachers in schools. If they feel probably at home it's not a safe environment, they can report to counselors. We know that most of these schools now have counselors. I cannot finish this answer without saying the role of the church or religious organizations. There's a big moral question that we need to ask as a country. And I'm not well versed to handle that question. But the church should be a point of refuge where we run to for help. So I also want to think that because of the role they play in terms of holding the moral fiber of this country, the churches can also be a place where you can seek help. And of course, the Kenya Counselors Association. This is an association where most of the psychologists, counselors are registered. So you can actually call and get help. So there are very many places you can seek help, but the onus is on you. Reach out and seek help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time to interview with us. We look forward to working together to continue pushing this agenda, and we wish you all the best in your initiatives.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for reaching out to us. We have a lot more information. If anybody is in need of more information on COP, you can go to our website, www.ca.go.ke. You can also send us an email on info@ca.go.ke. You can ask us any questions. We will come back to you. We are here to help you. We are here to provide you information. And as a government agency, this is our mandate. So we are not doing you any favor. It's up to you to reach out to us. Thank you very much.